On October 29, 1929, a man named Winston Churchill stood on the visitors gallery of the New York Stock Exchange and watched $12 billion disappear in a single day. Not stolen, not burned, just gone. He'd seen war. He'd seen empires collapse. But he later said nothing prepared him for the sound of that room. Grown men screaming, fortunes evaporating faster than anyone could count them. And the strangest part? Most of them had no idea why it was happening. This is the story of how America threw the biggest party in history, woke up with the worst hangover imaginable, and spent the next decade trying to remember what went wrong. Here's what makes 1929 different from every other financial crisis you've heard about. It didn't start with a bank failure. It didn't start with a war or a natural disaster. It started because millions of ordinary people genuinely believed they'd discovered a machine that printed free money. And for a while, they were right. The crash wasn't just rich people losing yachts. It was secretaries, barbers, and factory workers watching their entire futures vanish before lunch. By 1933, 1 in 4 Americans had no job, no savings, nothing. And the wildest part? The whole thing was built on a system so simple, a child could understand it, which is exactly why it worked so well. Let's start with what a stock actually is. Imagine you and your friends want to open a lemonade stand. You need $50 for supplies. You have 10. So you find 4 friends who each give you $10. Now, they own part of the business. They own stock. If the lemonade stand makes money, everyone gets a cut. If it fails, everyone loses their $10. Simple. Now, scale that up. Replace lemonade with Ford Motor Company. Replace your friends with thousands of investors. Same concept. You're betting that the company will be worth more tomorrow than it is today. In the 1920s, America was building everything: cars, radios, refrigerators, skyscrapers. The stock market became a scoreboard for the entire economy, and the score kept going up. Between 1923 and 1929, the market tripled in value. Tripled. People who'd never invested before started hearing stories. Your neighbor bought radio stock and doubled his money in 6 months. Your coworker bought General Electric and quit his job. Suddenly, not investing felt stupid, so they jumped in. And this is where it gets interesting. Most people didn't have extra money lying around in the 1920s, but the banks had a solution. It was called buying on margin. Here's how it worked. Let's say you want to buy $100 worth of stock. The bank says, you only need to give us $10. We'll lend you the other $90. Now, you control $100 of stock for just $10 out of pocket. If that stock goes up 20%, you just made $20 on a $10 investment. That's a 200% return. You pay back the bank's $90, pocket your profit, and do it again. Free money. Except here's the catch. If the stock goes down 20%, you don't just lose your $10. You still owe the bank $90. You're in debt before you've even blinked. But in 1929, nobody was thinking about that part, because the market hadn't gone down in years. By the summer of 1929, ordinary people were borrowing fortunes to buy stocks they didn't understand in companies they'd never heard of. And it worked. Month after month, the bets paid off. Margin debt hit $8.5 billion. For context, that was more than the entire federal budget. The whole country was leveraged to the teeth on a single assumption: tomorrow will be better than today. Now, here's where the story gets uncomfortable. Underneath all the optimism, the actual economy was starting to crack. Farmers were struggling. Crop prices had collapsed after World War I. Factories were overproducing. There were more cars, radios, and refrigerators than people could buy. Wages weren't keeping up. Most Americans couldn't afford the products the stock market was celebrating. But on Wall Street, none of that mattered. Stock prices weren't based on what companies were earning. They were based on what people believed they'd earn next year, or the year after that, or someday. It was a spiral. Stocks went up because people bought them. People bought them because they were going up. By September 1929, stock prices were 40% higher than company earnings could justify. Some stocks were trading at 50 times their actual value. Experts started whispering warnings. A few even pulled out, but most people ignored them. Why listen to pessimists when you're getting rich? Then, in early September, the market hiccuped. Nothing major, just a dip. Prices dropped a few percentage points, recovered, dropped again. Investors got nervous, not panicked, just cautious. And that caution became contagious. On October 24, 1929, the market opened and immediately started falling. Not slowly, fast. Traders couldn't keep up. The ticker tape that displayed stock prices ran hours behind. People were selling blind, unsure what their stocks were even worth. By noon, panic had set in. Major banks tried to stop it. A group of wealthy financiers pooled their money and started buying stocks to stabilize prices. It worked, briefly, but over the weekend, fear spread. By Monday, everyone wanted out. October 28th, the market dropped 13% in a single day. October 29th, Black Tuesday, it dropped another 12%. $16 billion in market value vanished in 2 days. That's roughly $400 billion in today's money. Here's what made it catastrophic. Remember all those people who bought on margin? The ones who borrowed $90 to buy $100 of stock? When their stocks dropped, banks demanded they pay back the loans immediately. It's called a margin call, but they couldn't pay. So the banks seized their stocks and sold them, which drove prices down further, which triggered more margin calls, which forced more selling. It was a death spiral. The more the market fell, the more people had to sell. The more they sold, the more it fell, and it didn't stop. By mid-November, the market had lost half its value. By 1932, it had lost 90%. 90. Companies that had been worth millions were suddenly worth nothing. Banks that had lent billions couldn't collect. Thousands of them collapsed, taking their depositors' savings with them. And because those depositors had no money, they stopped spending. So businesses closed. So more people lost jobs. So spending dropped further. The entire economy locked up like an engine without oil. Here's the part textbooks don't dwell on. By 1933, 15 million Americans were unemployed. Children stopped going to school because their families couldn't afford shoes. Farmers burned crops because prices were so low it wasn't worth harvesting. Thousands of people lived in shanty towns made of cardboard and scrap metal. They called them Hoovervilles, after President Hoover, who'd promised prosperity was just around the corner. It wasn't. The Great Depression lasted a decade. Some economists argue it didn't truly end until World War II forced the government to spend its way out. And the strangest part? The crash itself wasn't the problem. Markets crash. They recover. The problem was what came after. The realization that the entire economy had been built on borrowed money and borrowed confidence. And once that confidence broke, there was nothing underneath. So what actually caused the crash? Was it margin buying? Overvalued stocks? Wealth inequality? Poor banking regulation? Economic weakness hiding under false optimism? Yes, all of it. None of it. Take your pick. The truth is, nobody wanted to believe the party would end. Not the investors, not the banks, not the government. So they kept dancing until the floor collapsed. And here's the uncomfortable question nobody asks. Could it happen again? Different mechanisms, sure. We have circuit breakers now, deposit insurance, regulators who allegedly watch for bubbles. But the psychology? That hasn't changed. People still believe they found systems that can't fail. They still borrow against the future. They still assume tomorrow will be better than today. And sometimes they're right, until they're not. The Wall Street crash didn't happen because people were stupid. It happened because they were optimistic. Because they believed in progress. Because they trusted that the rules of the past didn't apply to them. And maybe that's the real lesson. The most dangerous moment isn't when things are falling apart. It's when everyone's convinced they never will.